Hello, hello. It's John Binnie. Well, I just had a beautiful day's training Swedish massage, and it is super windy here, and I thought I would drive home, um, filming as I go. It helps keep my attention on the road and the wind, and in part also just share this very windy drive. Um, we're expecting 85-mile-an-hour gusts in the northwest of Scotland. And here I am, just driving around the south side of Edinburgh, expecting something like gusts up to 65. What's interesting about the gusts are that they double the wind speed range. So in other words, it will be like, 30 something to 65. So let's see how that goes. Wish me luck. What shall I talk about today? Um, I feel like it's a good time to talk about being psychic and to talk about the coming out of your psychic closet. And I'll start with some of the founding principles just to explain the context of my knowing. So the first is that everybody has psychic capabilities, just like everyone has the ability to sense whether there's someone watching them, whether there's someone in your home, or if not in your home, depending on the size of it, absolutely in the same room as you. Uh, you can sense things like, whether there's something not right about a location or an energy, like something doesn't feel right, or when you're talking to someone that their energy feels a bit off and there's something. Excuse me. So sorry. I know I'm not going to edit that out. Um, bless me. But yeah, that mismatch of people speaking and their energy as well. Talking about today's experience uh, in my massage class. So this is the context. This is the second massage class that I've been to. So in other words, I didn't really know any of the class except for one person previously. They were in the we were in the reflexology class together, and so it's a class of, I think there's about 9 or 10 of us here today, and then there's a couple of others that'll in the class that'll join at other sessions. So the context is interesting, right? Like the teacher spoke a lot about they've been in the bank, worked in the bank before. I've worked in banks before, and others had come from like a software or data um, or both backgrounds, and really people of all ages and of all walks of life, um, can join a course like this. And so we stood there at our first break, and I was chatting about with a couple of people. I was chatting about what I do now, and I said, yeah, I was on the reflexology course before with the same complementary therapy school, highly recommended. And they're also going to be teaching that in the US if they've already started. And I was also talking about the the other work I do, quantum energy healing, and my psychic reflexology service. And what was fascinating was um, I just said, oh, my most popular requested one. In fact, to be honest, I've not been asked to do a single kind of vanilla reflexology only service yet. Uh, it's been to doing the psychic reflexology, and I just said that's the most popular. That's what people seem to book the most, and it's really funny the experience because on the one hand, reflexology teaches you to do a consultation form because you're laying hands on another human and you're doing a foot massage. So as well as that, and then the other aspects of the treatment itself, we check through things called contra indications, things that would be contra indicators that would be contra to you providing treatment for someone. So, for example, if they had a heart condition or they're about to have a medical surgery the next day, or they just had surgery, or whatever it was that from the long list of these different contraindications that we check for. And I said it's quite funny doing that, which you can spend, like if you do it thoroughly, you can spend, about 20 minutes doing it. But then for the psychic work, you just kind of say, oh, so have you had like a psychic reading before, or any energy healing, or mix of these two? And they said, often the expectation is from a client is that with the psychic work, they kind of want you to know all this stuff already. And yeah, speaking frankly, like it does, it puts pressure on you because you feel like, oh, they really want me to say that, they're anti Joan or something, um, who recently died. That's who's come forward. That's their name. Like it's a very human thing, right? We want to help validate and reaffirm from both sides, both from the client and then the psychic or the psychic medium side as well. And it's also really fascinating in the moment when when you call yourself psychic and then someone describes you, they acknowledge that you're calling yourself psychic. Often what they want to do next is, you know, could you, what energy did you pick up on me, about me, blah, blah. Now, I didn't get that in this particular instance. I got asked loads of questions and lots of really interesting. And two of the people said, really interested. I keep feeling guided to come to your work. And although I didn't say it at the time, it is really true that most of the referrals I get are from spirit guides. Maybe I should be giving referral bonuses to spirit guides. Um, I don't know how. Dear spirit guides, if there's a way I can thank you for um, this is for my client spirit guides, the way I can thank you for referring your client, our client, then I would love to just let me know. And I feel like it's quite funny because I'm just thinking back about the things I do for other people's spirit guides, and one of them is I will just write up a short note after a session, and I say, "Thank you so much. It was wonderful meeting your spirit guides." And so it's my way of like thanking them and acknowledging them, and I always name at least like one of the guides. Um, let's go around a roundabout. This will be interesting. So far, I think the road's relatively sheltered, and then as we leave the city, it'll get less sheltered. I mean, it makes sense, right? Um, you're probably just looking at this road thinking, John, I couldn't tell you're in a city or not, but this is for Scotland. This is a city. Um, and I kind of paused for a moment as I gave my business cards to these two people at the class, and then we chatted. We also got a chance to chat further uh, later on, and I love some of the questions like they're asking, has someone experienced a psychic reading before? What they're sharing their experiences of what they had, contacting or messages coming through from dead loved ones, um, and that was really beautiful. I also got asked, do I cry in my sessions, and I said yes, a lot. And I must admit, when I first started, I found other pe other people's emotions so overwhelming, and I often felt really obliged to to ex to allow a client's guides and or a client to. I always just seemed, what's the word, like really obliged to uh, experience the emotion that they were experiencing. But these can be really intense experiences, right? Um, and and so now, like I decide that, and if something starts to ramp up, like maybe it's like mourning from someone, or deep grief, or sadness, or rage, or whatever it is that they're feeling about the healing that we're doing at the time, or the messages coming through. I will just say, look, thank you for sharing that. I did not accept this energy into me, and I hold this like golden bubble in front of me, and I pull that out of me, and so that was really, um, really interesting, like learning on my part. It's okay to experience these things a little bit. To be honest, when someone gives you the experience of an emotion of such depth of, for instance, sorrow, uh, in some respects, it doesn't matter whether it's a minute or a year, but of course, it all helps. My main point is that once you feel it, it's almost like once you've seen something, you can't unsee it or you can't unfeel it in some respects. Anyway, I always do a lot of clearing between sessions, closing sessions, and make sure I'm not just in a, an energetic punch bag. Even if there's no um, ill thought or ill intention from my clients or their guides or any of the beings involved. Um, you know, we a lot of us choose really quite traumatic experiences in our lives, or our souls do, to help us grow in this lifetime. Um, I would So I wanted to just pause and reflect on the experience of what it was like back, when I first started the reflexology course, and compare my progress in coming out of the closet as a psychic. So one of the first things is, it's about a year, right? So it was October last year that I was starting reflexology, and I this whole world was new to me. I had a brief week of meeting people, and it was really beautiful, meeting people from my mindful meditation class, and I really loved the experience. And it was just a few months ago, I think it was May, I got to catch up with three of them again, and that was really beautiful. What I felt was, um, back then, I was still in my corporate job. I had just decided I was that I'm going to leave, and I didn't really use the word uh, psychic, um, but I was just starting to. Wow, this is windy. Just starting to develop my higher self foundational training, and get that kicked off. And if I could be completely wrong in the dates, but I think I first ran it in January, so I must have been developing it at least a couple months before then. And yeah, it was a time where I was still going into work, and it was so strange, going into my corporate job, and talking to others about reflexology. I mean, if I didn't think my quantum energy healing and my psychic work isn't crazy enough, they're also doing reflexology, which I'm not saying, I don't want to like belittle any of these things and devalue any of them. Like they're all super important, um, and they're all super valid. Healing and supportive modalities for people. But it was like layer after layer of things that I would, when people asking me how I was doing, I would increasingly talk about these other more like these complementary therapies and metaphysical work. So I find that really interesting reflection of the corporate job. But the main point of this reflection, almost this entire video, is that I want to acknowledge that I've been able to come this far and say that I'm psychic. I'm psychic. I'm psychic. And it's really funny because just doing this little video, what it's helped me connect with is the founding principle that I started with is everyone has psychic capabilities. But, everyone might have psychic capabilities, and everyone, if they have two legs, might be capable of running a mile or 5 miles. But how do you do it? We don't have those conversations like look at someone that runs 5 miles and say, "Oh, were you born like that? When you were born, could you run 5 miles?" And how did you know you were different and that you could run 5 miles? Like not everyone in the world can run 5 miles, right? But it's just really funny, and I think especially because a label, like, oh, you're a runner, are you? Um, you're a wizard, Ari. You're a wizard, Ari. I I find that really funny about the the aspect of being psychic is that people ask all these questions like it's just seen as such a magical uh, gift and then also profession and in people that are interested um, in it, it really made me reflect on how there's a lot of psychic work that can be done, or should I say, work done by psychics, by me and others, that would help bridge the gap of these many of these human questions and challenges and disbelief. And I feel some of them could be, for instance, doing, and I'm think some of these tests have existed for like decades, but there are like psychic tests you can take. Um, I think what is challenging about some of these tests, so I don't know, I don't even know what they are, but you have to like look inside a box and then you know share share what the contents are of it, and then you get the results. You get shown what the answer is. Um, but it's really fascinating because some of these tests are as helpful as they are destructive, right? Like they can send this message that, oh, you're not psychic to someone, or they can make you feel like, oh, you're not that kind of psychic. And really, if you removed the label psychic, um, what you'd feel into is that everyone has their own superpowers, just like they physically do. Everyone has their own metaphysical superpowers. Um, Now, one really interesting reflection is in my massage class today, someone asked, "Is have you ever had someone that just couldn't do it?" So this was in reference to like my higher self foundational training. Have I had someone that couldn't do the work, like they're not psychic? And and frankly speaking, no. Um, there's been there's week 6, I think it is, five or six. I can never remember exactly. Out of 8 weeks in the training course, where everyone spends in just an hour, you meet 8 of your spirit guides, and you ask them who you are, where are you from, what's your superpower, why are you working with me in this lifetime, what can I do to, you know, what's your name? Like, just you get to ask whatever you want, but the point is you get to meet 8 of them. Now, not everyone was able to get all 8 in 1 hour, and you're just spending a few minutes with each of them. But I and I might be wrong, but I think almost everybody, like with the exception of maybe one or two, got all eight when they went back and repeated the session. So you can just take the Zoom call recording that we do as a class and literally repeat it. And and it's so funny because that took me about 4 years to get to that stage. And it's just mind blowing, right? Like, how can someone activate their superpowers to be able to talk to spirit guides within just 5 or 6 weeks? And not just, not just one word, not just like to really begin the connections and start the foundations of conversations, lifelong conversations. And if you're curious, we make a little spreadsheet uh, of who our guides are, and you can, keep it for your own records privately, or you can share it with others. And mine for my spirit guides, I put it on my website for members to see. I do feel that everyone has, you know, psychic capabilities. I also feel that some people aren't ready for them. Some people are, it's a conscious decision. Everyone gets to choose. Like, for example, not everyone needs to learn how to run 5 miles, or has two legs and is capable uh, of it. But they, I do feel for the people that engage with it, um, you're already like someone narrowing down the client base to, or the attendees to people that want to pay for a training course. Um, and I do feel someone that is skeptical likely won't pay for the course. Um, but I have had experiences with people that aren't ready um, to either invest in the course or kind of think they are, and maybe they want to they want this course to make them more spiritual, if you like. Now, I do feel that what I teach does open up people, just like in my one-to-one sessions, it opens people up to having, um, helps them if they decide to open up and receive more of these kind of magical experiences. Um, However, not everyone's ready for it, right? And I think that's also really interesting. I was talking a bit about, well, when you feel a bit under pressure to maybe name a dead loved one, um, or to share something specific about them. And also you can, I feel like the human, um, or human slash kind of skeptical approach to this sort of psychic work is that somehow you must be able to give every single detail. So, for example, if a dead loved one steps forwards, it might be Uncle Bob. Then you'd be able to describe Uncle Bob. Uncle Bob looks like this. He wears this clothes. He was born in this year. His favorite colors are this. Like, that is entirely possible, and I've done it. Like, and in many client sessions, like these things have come through, and it is not only very validating as a psychic, but also, of course, your clients like, wow, this is amazing. It's so cool. However, the self-doubt comes in, or doubt comes in from both sides when things don't entirely add up, right? Or you don't really understand who's come through. And one, one thing that's really funny is, uh, quite often a dead loved one will come through, and they are a bit older, so they're a generation older, so their granny or great granny, grandmother or great grandmother, comes through, and often as a guide, but not always, and they won't know. So many clients don't know the names of them, And so then you tell them their name, and then they're not really sure, especially if their parents are no longer alive. Like, I don't even know how to find out whether that was their name or not, if it was definitely them. And so you can ask, like I'll ask the deceased, the dead loved one, um, how did you know them? Did you have any overlap in your lifetimes? Even if you just briefly met them as a baby before you died, and all these things, and that can help get real clarity. But the other the other thing I've learned, wow, that was a big gust of wind. Another big thing I've learned is that people, um, especially when it's a time limited situation. Now, all sessions are time limited, but when maybe the maybe a better way of describing it is when the guide or the higher self of a client wants to focus on a specific subject and they don't want the subject to be them, that's when they tend to go quieter. So, for example, you'll see me doing my YouTube live streams, and sometimes I go into great depth about the spirit guide. They're this being, they're this name, they're from this planet, they're this tall, they wear these clothes, and I can see all that fine. And I've been doing it for years, and I can get it. And then sometimes the guide will say, no, 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 stop, John, like stop wasting your time on me. That'll literally be their words. They'll say, go and talk to the the client or the higher self or the past life, or like, in other words, they're not the main attraction. They're just there to help if need be. And I find that really fascinating because that also happens in the longer client sessions. And somewhere between, I'm going to slow right down here because it's a really dangerous bridge. Um, wow. So now 50 miles an hour. Um, thing is, some of these cars just go past really fast for no good reason. But the road's pretty clear, so let's just take our time across here. I'm just going to concentrate on this. Uh, Driving nice and safely. Driving with all four wheels on the ground. It's windy, but you're safe. Thank you for safe passage across the bridge. Okay, the wind's coming up for behind me now. Um, we did it. Where was I? Yeah, so when the spirit guide says, I'm not the main focus of attention, that's kind of fascinating. But what is effectively happening is the the guide to an extent is also blocking you, right? They're saying, no, stop paying attention to me. And so they might just state the intention softly. And sometimes they'll even, the guide will block you, right? Spirit guide will like step back. Sometimes I see them like stepping behind almost like a curtain or a veil. And it's because they don't want to be in communication. They want another being to take over, like a higher self, client themselves, um, or maybe uh, one of the archangels, or any other helper that I've invited in. So yeah, I think that's really interesting. What I'm trying to say is that uh, even when, so if, for example, that had happened and it was the the client themselves says, I want to know the name of one of my spirit guides, and I also want an energy clearing, negative energy removed. If you go in with those two intentions to a 10-minute live stream kind of taster session or a 1 hour booked session with clients, um, the crazy thing is, um, what you might find is this. Uh, you might find, just wondering why a car that has those on. You might find that one of those questions, like finding out the name of the spirit guide, is effectively blocked until you've dealt with the negative energy, because the guide knows that that is dealing with the negative energy is far more important than their name. Like that can happen at any time. But the negative energy attached to them is a really bad idea. So yeah, I think that's really important to take into account. There are other really fascinating things that happen, and I've seen this more through multiple client sessions. Is that you go in there and you're expecting to talk to a deceased loved one, and then the being that comes forwards, like it is the deceased loved one, but they've changed quite a lot. Often when people are soul still living, right? So it's an incarnation that has died, but all their personality is, being consumed, subsumed by their soul again, and their soul has taken on all that energy and is doing just fine. And when the soul comes forwards, often through the higher self, I often get like a very kind of ascended version. And I feel it's because unless they're a ghost of, where they've been trapped in like the fourth dimension, in which case they're typically not very happy. Um, Often you're getting like the fifth dimension version, upwards. And so their personality is quite different. They can be much gentler and loving. Um, Maybe less so for the recently deceased. I think the closest that I've done a client session for was the next day, the day after their loved one had died, and when that happens, it was it was really beautiful. When their energy came in, it felt very human, and I don't deal with humans all the time. I deal with uh, ex-humans, and so in other words, it feels much more like kind of telepathy, and their vibration, their energy feels much more closer to yours. So I think that's a really interesting experience. Yeah, you have a lot to explain in these sessions, so often you have to cram in a lot to explain to a client and say, well, yes, it's your loved one, it's the one that you asked to speak to has come in. However, they when they came through, they like they're showing me these characteristics. They look different, like they don't really look particularly human now. They look maybe more angelic, or they look more um, at peace themselves. Sometimes they'll change form as well. And I think some of it's because they want to show you that, death is not a degradation in the soul. It's almost like what happens is the soul benefits from all the energy of that incarnation, and and then and all the wisdom, and it's almost like the soul reaps the rewards for everything achieved in that life. Now, I feel that our souls constantly reap the rewards of our growth throughout our lives. So that's not it's not just the kind of bonus points you get at the end of the life, but it does feel that the soul continually benefits, and therefore it's not like at the end of it your soul goes, "Oh, one of my incarnations is dead, and so I've lost something." Like no, I feel like it's always a gain, um, and I think it's also what the soul wants to do is like say, "Hey, look, I've changed." So yeah, there's many reasons why, and thank you for listening to my ramble for 35 minutes about this. I think there's many reasons why when you're doing this work that uh, you can doubt yourself, but at the same time realize, you know what, um, the you can only ever relay what you're being told, what you're being shown by guides, the client's higher self, your guides, your higher self, and also if it's a deceased loved one, by them as well. You can ask them questions and you can interrogate it and you can try and figure out, is this really like the being that I invited through? Um, you can ask, archangels and ask your guides as well, like, is this really them? But ultimately, if the client doesn't like the answers or, still feels skeptical or you do, like that's really for yourself and your client to just integrate. And by integrate, I mean agree that it was really good, and it was a great session and everything worked out well, or would say no, there was some things that just didn't resonate with me, and that that's okay. And I feel like that's a huge part of this work, is the integration. Because often what I hear about other, especially when I've been doing work in person, I hear more and more about other psychics and other psychics, where they've got a hit, the client's really happy. And so the client is saying to me, this is something that they have integrated as a belief, that it was true that this is what that the psychic did. And then for the things that weren't true for them, that didn't feel resonated, then as part of their integration, they've rejected those, or they've kind of put them in a category of, well, I'm not so sure about these. So yeah, this is all, I think, really, really helpful to to reflect on as well. Um, I'm just going to flip you around because I don't think I've shown you me. Oh, I'm in the dark. Um, so yeah, I do feel that I am really intrigued about testing my psychic abilities to do other things. Um, you know, maybe be like names and places or things inside of, objects and objects and stuff like this. I think it can be a really fascinating thing because I feel like it's something, it's not to be showy or to be gimmicky about this work, but I feel like it's something that I could learn, like improve my skills and abilities in doing it, and then also teach others. And for the purpose of helping people um, get better at that. I mean, let's face it, if you continually practice about guessing or using your imagination or using your psychic abilities or a combination of all these things, of looking inside a box, closed boxes, and then telling others what's inside of them, you'll get good at that. It doesn't make you any more or less psychic. It just means that you're better at that task. It's just like when I used to prepare a lot for interviews, and I was great at interviewing. I got almost every single job that I interviewed for. But I was just very good at interviewing. It doesn't make me great at the job. It just got me great at being, answering interview questions. So yeah, I think that is me. I'm just arriving home. And speaking of readings, in another couple of hours, I'll be uh, going on Zoom with my membership group, and I will be doing readings and clearings and healings for them. It'll be really exciting to get to do it like face to face. Unlike the YouTube live streams, this is something that I can do with people, um, and have a conversation. So looking forward to that. And we do that a lot in the training courses, and so really enjoy, doing this more. Wow, this is a very windy house. So thank you so much for watching, and I'm sending so much love from Scotland. Take care. Love you.